Yeah. So first and foremost, while we jump into MLS Cup here, I wanted to send it over to Tom and describe kind of just what it was like at lower.com and the atmosphere. It looked electric, man. The gameplay was phenomenal. What was it like being inside the stadium, being there? Maybe some impressive moments that you saw and who stood out, things like that.
Yeah, the facilities, and I'm going to start with the training facility. Beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it made me kind of so happy. That was the first time I had been to the new Columbus stuff for around MLS, because obviously 2020 was COVID and nobody was traveling for it. And again, the facility and the stadium weren't up yet anyway. Why my favorite part that's pretty low key is that, dude, we don't have a ton of legit original soccer heritage stuff in this country. This league is 26 years old. Like, that's just par for the course. One of the true legitimate historical soccer sites we have is historic Crew Stadium, the very first soccer specific stadium in MLS. It spawned all these other stadiums. It was the first of its kind. And you look back on it now, it's funny that it doesn't look anything like, a modern stadium, right? Like, but it just gives you nostalgia, and it's preserved history. The Crew preserved that stadium. They could have knocked it down and used the land. They could have been like, oh, whatever, who cares? But they preserved that stadium. They put a bubble in the middle of it in the winter, and that's they can use it for their academy and other teams, whatever, indoor training, whatever it is. I got to play in the bubble at Historic Crew Stadium, and I put together a media game, and the Crew hooked us up. Really awesome of them. They were like, if you guys want to play there, just walking around the bowels of that stadium was awesome. And it's like I'm walking with a couple guys who are from Columbus and who've been covering the team forever. He's like, in that hallway is where the referee slapped Frankie Hayduke, and in that hallway it's just like, and there's the visiting team locker room, and then like you kind of walk into the stands, and it's like, dude, there's just so many like iconic moments here, so many Dos Aceros for U.S. national team over Mexico. It's just like, man, dude, they could have knocked this down. They could have, but like they preserved it. And again, this is pretty long winded without even talking about the game or anything else, but like that's it. It was nice to like feel like we go to all these new markets, which is awesome, like all these new stadiums and new traditions and new everything else, and it's really cool and it's awesome. I loved seeing some of the old stuff too, and that made me very happy. Again, but their training facility is right next to the historic Crew Stadium, and the training facility is like a rocket ship, man. It is incredible, right? Like, so it's funny. Oh my god, like of course it's nicer here, but I'm glad that they didn't knock it down. The stadium was awesome too, right? And I'm walking into the game. It felt like a big atmosphere around the stadium. Kickoff was 4 p.m. I think I went to grab coffee with someone at like 10 a.m. I was already seeing Crew jerseys, LAFC jerseys, scarves, people going places like 6, 7 hours for the game, man. And like it felt like a big atmosphere. And like well and truly, there's been other cities where, places like Los Angeles, there's, LAFC and the Galaxy have very good support, but like it's a huge city. There's so many different things in town. And you take Ubers and they go, oh, what are you in town for? That small talk that I hate so much and I'm so bad at. And it's like, you know what? I don't know if people exactly, like if I say MLS game, whatever, I'm like, oh, I'm here for the soccer game. And then they're like, oh, yeah, no, the Crew are playing Sunday. Like, I know. And then being like, and then like, it was every Uber driver. Ohio State football is probably the first priority, but like all of them were like, oh, the Crew, right? Like, and people that you'd see on the streets, right? Like, so it really felt like it was the event in town, which, it shouldn't be taken for granted, I guess, even though like that should be the case. But, the poetic stuff off the field, I really, really love that. In the stadium, like you said, phenomenal atmosphere, phenomenal play on the field. It was the Crew deserved to win. They were better on the day, and it made me very happy that a team that tried to play like this, who tried to, win beautifully at all costs, right? Like they could have been pragmatic. It's after halftime, because I was talking to players like after the game. I was like, what was the message? Like, Kevin Molino was dribbling out of his own 18 in the 86th minute up a goal in a final. Like you guys just don't know how to play any other way, right? Like so, what was the message at halftime? It was like Wolford was like, we're still us. Don't let the game state dictate us. Be what we are. Be what we believe in. And so again, Julian Gressel's dribbling out of the back as well, and they're completing passes. Like the only non-Crew thing they did was Christian Ramirez took it to the corner, and I thought for a second he was going to turn and go towards goal anyway, right? Like so, just the Crew stayed true to themselves. LAFC had a phenomenal season. I know that people are going to make a lot of jokes of 3 finals they won none. 26 other teams in the league would want to be LAFC this year, right? Like it's just reality. It was a phenomenal season, but the game itself, it was awesome. And again, the way that the Crew played, their belief, dedication, the way that Wilfried Nancy empowered his players. Like you look between Montreal and here, I can name 27 guys off the top of my head who have had career best years under Wilfried Nancy, and just to see that the pinnacle of that, because if they lose, the whole offseason thing would be like, yeah, well, can you really win the big game playing like that and all that crap? And look, they won. He's got the highest approval rating, I think, in MLS right now, and they're getting their deserved victory lap.
To your point before, I know you were talking about how like invested Columbus is in the crew. Not to give myself the Jack Mayer doxing treatment, but I live in Brooklyn, and I remember last year when NYC was playing for the title, I was like I was in and around Brooklyn for most of the day. I don't remember seeing like anything about NYC playing in the title game. I don't remember seeing like jerseys, no posters or anything. And I was over by where the Barclays Center is. Like that's a big sports area. I figured
Yeah.
something would be there. Talk about, the NYC's playing in the final, but it was nothing. So it's really interesting to hear like from a different city's perspective how invested they are in the team. It's cool.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for the fans, they would have lost the team. So it I don't know, just going on those like strands and like the writer and me looking at like the themes and the poetry, like it was really cool to see all that rewarded. And it's funny, people were asking me, just talking among other media members, hey, what's your prediction? I hate predictions because we look like an idiot and like none of us knows what's gonna happen. And I found the breakdown pretty funny because I'm on the younger side of some of my colleagues. I'm 28. Another one of my colleagues is 26, and it was both of us were like, yeah, I think like Columbus are going to win. They play beautiful, everything. And it's like the older guys are like, dude, it's going to be 1-0 LAFC off a set piece, right? Like you understand that's how this works. Like you're talking about all these beautiful. So it was like the idealism versus like this is how the world really works. So it was funny that the breakdown happened to be the people who have been around longest are like, bro, like LAFC is going to win 1-0. Like, what are you talking about? Right? Like, and then the way that it played out, that like Columbus, like really, because like, well and truly, no team has won playing like this for a long, long time in this league. Like Toronto and Atlanta were awesome on the ball, but like Atlanta in 2018, they changed into a transition team in the playoffs and a defensively solid team. Like that's been the whole thing. It's like you need to be defensively solid and have a star attacker. And the crew, like they have star attackers, right? But like they wanted 60% of the ball and they want to create chances all game and they want to play with a high line and play dangerously and play courageous and it won.
That's so fitting because Andrew's the vet of this podcast. He's been following the league for a long time, and I can't tell you how many times when we were doing predictions that he was talking about the teams bunkering in with the weird, wacky 1-0 win.
Yeah.
Okay.
Connor's
anyway,
bank
I'll go
account
back
is
on.
empty right now because he's trying to get his predictions correct. I'm just saying.